celebrated Nigerian film director, screenwriter, producer, and cultural entrepreneur renowned for his groundbreaking contributions to African cinema. His latest film, No U-Turn, and No U-Turn is on YouTube, you can go see it there, received widespread acclaim, earning a special mention award at the prestigious Berlin International Film Festival, Berlinale 2022. Since its premiere, No U-Turn has screened at over 50 international film festivals and garnered numerous accolades, including the Artistic Bravery Award at the Durban International Film Festival, the Best Documentary Film Festival at the Africa International Film Festival, Afrique, and Best Documentary Film Festival at the Ojokojo International Film Festival, Spain. With a career spanning over 20 years, Ike has left an indelible mark on the industry. He's the founder and CEO of LP House of Creatives, a pioneering initiative that is building a network of creative hubs across Africa and beyond, providing safe spaces for African creatives to thrive. Additionally, he's the founder of Passion 8 Communications Limited, a leading media content production company based in Lagos, Nigeria. Ike's filmography is marked by a diverse range of projects that tackle pressing societal issues with finesse and creativity. His debut commercial film, False, received critical acclaim and won several awards, including the Golden Icon Academy Award. Subsequent international award-winning projects like Sing or Swim and Loving Daniela have further solidified Ike's reputation as a visionary filmmaker with a keen understanding of human complexities. In addition to his cinematic endeavors, Ike is deeply committed to nurturing the next generation of African filmmakers through initiatives like the Treasure Wells Academy and the Breaking into Nollywood with Ike Nnaegwe's workshop. He shares his expertise and passion for storytelling, empowering young talents to pursue their dreams in the film industry. Ike is also an international speaker, having spoken at prominent platforms such as the World Media Forum and various stages across Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. And driven by a relentless pursuit of excellence and a desire to push boundaries, Ike Nnaegwe continues to shape the landscape of African cinema and inspire audiences worldwide with his compelling storytelling and visionary approach to filmmaking. Please, let's join me to welcome Mr. Nnaegwe. Clap, 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 clap. You can clap.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Ujaku, for that beautiful introduction. Thankfully, you've done. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. You've done a beautiful introduction, so at least I don't have to spend time trying to introduce myself again. It's so beautiful to see a lot of people in the room. We are 77 right now and growing. I think it's beautiful. I'm actually quite inspired and excited to see a number of people that are interested in this particular masterclass. It's always surprising to me. Let me start by saying that it's surprising to me when people are so interested in like a masterclass to teach smartphone filmmaking when they are already like very used to using their smartphones. They're like, people are already using their smartphones to take pictures, to make videos, and they know even filters, they know different even camera apps, especially with the girls. Most girls would never take their pictures or their videos with the normal camera that comes with the phone. So they always have one or two beauty apps.
Says who? Says who, Mr. Ike?
Well, based on a research that I never actually did. Well, but I've seen a lot of women who just, when they want to take a picture, they say, no, don't take with Snapchat or with this, like, it's crazy because I used to think that you only open the Snapchat thing when you want to do stuff on the app. apparently, I didn't know that people already figured a way how to just make it a camera app and just use it. So basically what I'm trying to say is most people are already familiar with the idea of making films with smartphones. So most times when we do workshops like this, my main job is actually not to show you technically what to do because you're already doing it, is to show you how what you are doing can be put together in a professional way that you can use as a tool to tell stories, whether you're telling brand stories, you're shooting TV commercials, products, and what have you. You're telling narrative stories as in films. You're telling documentary films. It's just my core job is always to inspire you by the end of the masterclass to literally just get off your butt and start telling stories with the phone that you have, because the fact that you're actually attending this masterclass means you have a smartphone, at least I can assume safely, you know. And the results that we've got, most of the places that we've done the masterclass is actually exactly what I just said. People just immediately start creating content and start uploading and start sharing with me. I'm talking about in a matter of like the next day, somebody's already sending me pictures of what they are shooting and the story that they've always wanted to tell. There was one that touched me very much. He had always wanted to tell a story about masquerades in his town. And for many years, he's been nurturing this story to tell, but he just couldn't afford to tell the story yet because, of course, he had to think about hiring a crew, hiring cameras, all the equipment and everything. It wasn't just something that he could do at the time until he came to the master class. And after the master class, it was in Enugu. After the master class, the next day he sent me pictures. He was already shooting interviews. He was already shooting masquerades. It was like magic. He said he could not believe that he had always had the tool in his pocket. Like literally. It's like when they say what you're looking for in Sokoto is right there in your Shokoto, you know? But you just don't know because um, someone just needs to tell you, that look, this small device that you have can do a lot more than just talk and text or scroll on Instagram or TikTok, you know. And over the few years that we've started to push the idea of smartphone filmmaking in Nigeria, it's been so amazing to see the growth, to see how young people are now seriously using their smartphones to create content. You Sometimes I watch some of these contents that these individuals create, and I'm like, these are amazing storytellers. The way they put the stories together, the concepts, the way they're able to dramatize it, and all of that. And so you see, one of the things about smartphone filmmaking is that it gives you that liberty. It puts power in your hands. You know, it's not like when we started as filmmakers. It took 10 years before I got a chance to direct my first film. After I'd finished studying and was ready, was actively looking for someone to give me a film to direct. It took 10 years of actively working in the industry as an editor to be able to get that first break. But imagine if it was now, I wouldn't need to wait for anybody. I would have just made a short film. And it was still a short film I had to do after 10 years of waiting. I still had to do a short film before someone who had the opportunity to have, given me a project to do now learned that I was filming, I was directing. That's how that opportunity came because I took that step. So that's a side note to actually say to most storytellers here, you have these beautiful stories that you want to tell, and you know within your heart that this story that you want to tell is going to change the world. And I strongly believe, I believe in you, and I believe you. but you've been waiting for a very long time because you just say you don't have the resources. Because the last time you checked, the type of money that they were calling, it's not even something you can begin to imagine right now. So you just try to ignore that story. But the biggest problem is that the story would not let you be. Because every time you watch anything that is remotely related to storytelling, it comes back. It goes like something is haunting you. But you know, all the while, you've always had your smartphone as well. You've always had all the tools that you needed to actually get that story started. But you never really quite know that you can do that. And that is what I'm trying to show you this after. Hopefully, I can show you how and why you should immediately start telling stories with your phone. And so I'll try. I don't know, Ujaku, I don't know if you've made me a host. Can I share my screen now?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember to admit people, please, okay?
Yeah, yes. I'll get a notification, right? Every time someone needs to come in. I believe I'll
Yeah,
get
but
a
if you're sharing your
notification.
screen, could be, yeah,
Okay, well,
please, thanks.
I'll be watching. Um,
Okay, you're now the host.
okay, I get. So it says view. 4 people entered the room.
Yeah, so you're now the
Admit
host, so
all. Okay, that's fine.
take it.
All right, thank you very much. So, where's the share screen thing here? Um, um, I'm trying to find the share screen thing. That's share.
So look below
Yeah.
your screen, you will see share. You see a green tab.
Yeah. I think I'm
So
sharing
yeah,
now. Am
yeah,
I
we can
sharing?
see I can see your
Okay, you can
screen,
see my
smartphone filmmaking plus. Yes.
okay, so
Um,
I'm sharing now. Let me see.
can we all hear him?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
guys
Very well.
okay, and
Okay,
can you read my
fantastic.
screen? You can see my
Yes,
screen?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Very well, sir.
All right. Okay. So, because I like my classes to be very interactive, and sometimes these virtual classes you really don't know exactly how to make it as interactive as you would like. So, what I would like to do now is I would just like 5 random people to introduce themselves and just basically say what they're expecting to gain from this class, and then we can continue. So. I would say, okay, somebody already raised their hand. So all the people that have raised their hands, you can go. Harachi.
Okay. Um, Hello everyone. I don't know if you can hear me, so yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Harachi. Go
All
ahead.
right. All right. So my name is Sarachi Namchi. I'm a screenwriter and a film producer. At least I can call myself that because I've made my first film that will be coming to Netflix soon. So I wanted to join this class, yes, because it was important for me to
Kate,
was one
please,
of the
Kate,
bases of the
can you
class.
help mute? Sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, right. So it was very important for me to learn about reimagining folklore because it's one of the bases of the class and a topic that I'm very, very interested in. And because I have a couple of projects I already started working on before I even knew that it's a thing, like there is a name for it on a big scale. Right. So at the end of this class, I'm hopeful that I'm able to do a couple of projects on reimagining folklore with a couple of persons, because I'm very based on writing the story. So meet a couple of young filmmakers that I can work with. I do the writing and they do the mastering of the film. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much, Harachi, for introducing yourself and letting us know about the projects that you're working on. I do just only have one thing to just like a point of correction. This particular class was smartphone filmmaking, right? The reimagining folk tale just finished. I don't know. Did you meet that one?
Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I
We
did.
did with okay,
Yes,
okay. So basically because it's a hackathon, so I can imagine how you would, just assume that everything is about folk tales. But in a way,
exactly.
everything is related anyways, because if you're reimagining folk tale, for instance, and you want to make a film about it, you could pick one or two tips here on this particular class that you can use. And then, of course, tomorrow we continue with AI and all of that. So they're all connected, but I just wanted you to just to make that very clear that this is specifically about smartphone filmmaking. But
Thank you.
all right, you're welcome. Let me see. Taiwo Adebayo.
Yeah,
Taiwo.
good morning or good afternoon.
Good. I think it's still good morning.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
first of all, good morning everyone, and it's so nice being here. I'm Taiwo Adebayo by name. I'm a filmmaker and a cinematographer as well. So, I actually joined this particular class because most of the videos I shoot or I edit, I mostly do them with professional cameras and go for my editing on the system. But there are times that without a system, I can't edit. Without a professional camera, I can't shoot. So me hearing about smartphone filmmaking, it means even with my phone, I can quickly get to create some virtual stories that I can, push. So at the end of this particular class, I aim at working with my phone in absence of a camera or possibly a system. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Taiwo. And Abdulaziz.
Okay, good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. My name is Abdulaziz Yakubu. I'm a writer and a filmmaker. One I want to learn from the class is what can give me a push to go with filming with a phone rather. I always find it very difficult to do. I just feel that I have to use a camera. I have to use a camera. So I took an interest in this
Sorry,
class because
sorry,
I need
Abdulaziz.
to give me.
I'm sorry, your audio was a bit choppy. Can you start again, please?
Okay, I said, can you hear me now, please?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. I said my name is Abdulaziz. Once again, I'm a filmmaker and a cinematographer, but I find it very difficult filming with friends. So when I saw this part of the training, I said, I really need this. I need something that can give me a paradigm shift. And because it's what is happening and it's making a whole lot of sense. So I want to see the possibility how I can make that quick shift. That's why I'm so interested in this class.
Okay. Thank you very much, Abdulaziz. Welcome to the class. Let me look for Chinwe. Is that Chinwe Enwe? Chinwe. You can unmute yourself now.
Hello,
Hi. How do you pronounce your name?
Chinwenwe.
Chinwenwe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I am a filmmaker, a writer, an actor, assistant director, and I'm excited to be part of this class. I'm looking forward to getting some inspiration, some empowerment, because, like you said, smartphone filmmaking puts the power in your hands. And I personally think that content creation, storytelling is a powerful tool for change. So I just feel like there's a lot of excuses that we sometimes make. Oh, it's too expensive. I don't have this. I don't have that. But smartphone filmmaking definitely puts that power in your hands. So I'm looking forward to feeling more empowered to doing more.
Ike, are you here?
Sorry, you're mute.
Okay.
Sorry, you're mute.
Hi, Ike.
I see it now. Okay, so sorry about that. I think because I was sharing, I wasn't quite seeing the buttons where to unmute. And I didn't know that I was muted. Okay, but can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. So basically, we'll just go straight into it. So this will be the agenda for this class. We'll go through introduction, of course, we just did that. We'll talk about essential gear. We'll talk about pre-production. We'll talk about shooting techniques. We'll talk about editing on smartphones and then distribution and sharing. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So basically, why smartphone filmmaking? There's so many reasons why I started paying attention to smartphone filmmaking, and I think why most people should, and most people do. So first of all, the first thing about smartphone filmmaking is the tool is quite simple, and most people already have that tool. And it's a way to utilize something that you already have, that you can use in multiple ways. So that if your phone, you can find a way to turn your phone into a true professional tool for filmmaking. There's actually so much you can do because all of a sudden you are in possession of a lot of power, basically. Because imagine just regular way of filming is that you would have to hire a crew. At least you have to hire a cameraman, and then most times you have to hire a sound man, and then you have to hire equipment and all of that. And then if you're traveling, you have to also pay for their travel and everything. Whereas with your smartphone, you can actually be a one-man gang so easily, you know. You can be a sound man, you can be a cameraman, and you can still be the director, you can be the producer. In fact, sometimes, and a lot of times, you could actually be the actor as well, you know, because you can actually film yourself. You can experiment with different ways of placing the cameras and filming yourself. And you can actually, it would be interesting to actually see someone who makes a film by himself or herself. I think it would be an interesting idea for people to see, you know. So, so many reasons again for, you know, paying attention to smartphone filmmaking. There are places that you can film with smartphone that you cannot film with ordinary camera, especially if you're a documentary filmmaker. There are certain times when you can't even bring out like a professional camera, even if you have it. Let's not even talk about sometimes when things are happening and all you just have to do is just bring out your phone and start recording because there's no time to call a cameraman or to organize for a crew and things like that. So these are some of the reasons why smartphone filmmaking. Certain times, even in places where you just know that this your story needs this particular shot, to be complete. But you can't just, it's not possible to hire a camera and to, go with a proper camera and things like that. Sometimes it's even, security issues, things like that. Smartphone filmmaking helps out a lot in such places. I remember when I was working on No U Turn, we were there's a scene, it's actually a sequence in the film right now that was shot with my phone, my smartphone. And it was because where where the stuff that I needed to capture, which I thought was going to be important, which ended up being a very important part of the story, was happening at a place where we did not have time to start bringing out the camera, and it was even not allowed. It was one of the areas where they say, oh, this is like a militarized area, across the Burkina Faso area. So the only thing that I could have done was just to film with my phone. And because we had already made a series with my phone, that same phone. So I already was comfortable with filming with it, even though I knew I was making a high-end professional, film. But at the end of the day, by the time we finished the film, I've actually put money a couple of times within my team members for anybody who can identify the part of that film that was shot with a smartphone. Until today, nobody has been able to identify that part because most of these phones shoot on 4K, for instance. Even now, I think the new iPhones shoot more than 4K, 6K and all that. And a lot of the cinemas that you actually go to, let me tell you something that will shock you. So when you hear 4K, of course, the cinematographers and the filmmakers in the house know, but for the general everybody, 4K is about the resolution of the picture that you're taking, whether it's motion picture or still picture. But in this sense, we're talking about motion pictures. So 4K is the resolution of that picture. And so most of the professional cameras now shoot 4K, 6K, 8K. And also most of the phones actually shoot 4K, 6K, 8K. Now, the interesting thing is most of the cinemas they can't even project more than 2K. So all the films that people shoot on 8K, on 6K, eventually had to always be downgraded to be able to screen in the cinemas. So the picture I'm trying to make you to understand is 1K resolution is already industry standard. It's high standard for cinema. And your phone is shooting on 4K. Do you understand the difference? Do you understand how sophisticated most of your phones are? Whether it's Android or it's iPhone, it doesn't really matter that much. Although if we have the means, there are higher end, phones that pay more attention on the picture quality and all that. But that's the same thing you find when you're shopping for big cameras. All the big cameras are not equal in terms of the pictures that they produce. But at the end of the day, when you're learning cinematography or you're learning photography, the first thing that they will tell you is that the best camera is the one in your hands. I need to admit some people, and I'm looking for this admission. Guys, uh, I sorry guys, just give me a minute. There are a couple of people waiting. It's not allowing me to go. Okay, let me go. Okay. All right, I'm back on. So basically, there are so many reasons why smartphone filmmaking. Of course, we talked about it being accessible, the accessibility, the affordability. We've talked about the flexibility. So let's move on to what you need. The essential things you need when you're filming. You need tripods. Now, there's a very, very important reason why you need tripods. A lot of times, actually, stability of the picture is most times what differentiates between amateur videographers and professional videographers. Except when it is needed in the story that you're telling that the camera should be shaking or not stable. Other than that, I always recommend for you to put your camera on a tripod, or at least put it on a surface that is where it's going to be stable, and frame your shot there. It is very, very important. One of the things that is very important when you're, especially if you're doing a documentary film, is you must let your shots rest. Your shots must rest at least for 10 seconds before you can, cut to another shot or something like that. And in that moment when your shot is on the screen, you want the audience to focus as much as possible to the things that you're trying to show. Because I want to believe that there's something you're trying to show. That's why you're using that picture. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time and everybody's time. And if the picture is not stable, it just has a way of just, the human eye needs stability to be able to focus. So tripods are a must for you to invest in. Thankfully, tripods are not, they have some quite, good ones that are not too pricey. And some of these online, retailers sell them. So I'm sure you can find them on the internet and check. But usually, um, they're usually mostly good, even if they're not so expensive. But you also have to be very careful. They're also very fragile, you know. Addition to tripods, other things that I think you should invest in would be, oh yeah, I think I can show you the tripod. Um, where is my video? So you can see. Okay, but this is a tripod, right? Um, most of them come like this. They're easy to fold, and you can put them, by the side of your knapsack and stuff like that. And then they always come with this. This is where you put the phone. Yeah. Um, yeah. So always put your camera on a tripod. Very, very important. Your shots needs to be stable. There are other kind of stands or smartphones that you can also get if you can afford it. Most of them, like the tabletops, they will come in handy when you're shooting things like podcasts and all that, where you might have a table nearby, you can just put them on and things like that. Those ones are also, cheaper, less expensive, but they're quite good as well. Then stabilizers. So if you have, what I do is when I do classes like this, I try not to push for too much gear. I try to make people understand that it's not about the gear. It's not about the gadgets that you have. It's about what you can do with the actual stuff, the phone itself. So I try not to talk about all the other gadgets that you can bundle with your phone to shoot if you can afford it. Because again, the idea is to keep it affordable and to make it accessible to everyone. Because the way the mind works is if I show you like all the gadgets and everything, your mind will not rest until you are able to build that kind of setup before you believe that you're ready. But the point is, people have continued to tell amazing stories with just their phone, sometimes even not with a microphone. So it's very important for you to understand that part of the thing that is important with smartphone filmmaking is the fact that it's a minimalist tool and don't try to complicate it. Then you need microphones. The reason you need microphones is also because audio is also one of the major ways to tell when something is done by an amateur and when something is done by a professional. In other words, your audio quality has a very big contribution to make in the overall quality of your film or your content. So it's very, very important that you invest in microphones. And there are quite very good microphones these days that are even like lapel, you can just hang them and they are Bluetooth. Yeah, so you don't need to be working with cables. You can just connect them to the phone via Bluetooth, and then you can start recording with better audio. Also, one of the things you need to know is we would touch it during post-production, but also just because I'm talking about microphones and audio, is the place of AI in all these things. These days, there are AI apps that can actually take very bad audio and make them sound quite professional, as if they were taking with professional microphones. So it's also very important for you to be aware of these possibilities. The next thing we want to talk about is lighting. When you're filming with a smartphone, it's very important to understand how lighting works. Because again, you don't have the liberty of working with a gaffer, someone who will light the scene for you. And you don't have the liberty of working with a lot of lights. Because again, if you have to carry plenty lights, it defeats the purpose. So again, how do you film with just your smartphone, or maybe just your smartphone and a small LED light that you can afford, something simple and something cheap that you can put in your pocket and you can charge it and you can shoot with it anytime you want to shoot, you know? So to work with lighting, the first thing you need to do is understand daylight. Understand daylight. Understand the power of daylight. So daylight is the biggest practical light you would ever have when you're filming during the day. So first of all, it means that when you're talking about lighting, you're talking about planning. You need to plan well. You need to not actually probably, you should check out your location. When you're doing your recce, when you're checking your location before you start filming, you should watch the position of the sun and mark the time of the day. And then if you can, you should be able to map out from where the sun is facing in the morning. You should be able to know where the sun will be facing in the evening in that same location. If you can't, then it's better that you stay back and watch it. Because if you're depending on the daylight to be your main lighting for the scene that you're shooting, if you go in the morning, depending on the position of the room, you would have either more light or less light. So you need to figure out exactly how you want it and work with time. Because again, you don't have the luxury of professional lights to be able to control the light the way you want. So you're depending on the daylight. And there's so much magic you can do with daylight, actually. There's so much magic that you can do with daylight if you master daylight. If you master daylight, even when you're filming with big cameras and a big crew and all of that, it's still important to master daylight because it's not all the time that you go out and shoot, especially if you're shooting in West Africa. I think it's pretty much the same in Kenya, where the sun is very strong at certain times of the day. And because of that, the intensity of the light is not the best for picture. So sometimes you plan you schedule especially if you're filming outdoors, you say, okay, we'll film outdoors in the morning when the sun is young. The sun is young and, you know, it's not very intense. The picture, it's a lot more, you know, soft. It's a lot softer and a lot more beautiful. Once it starts to hit midday, 12, 1, 2, 3, it's a terrible type of light, you know. So maybe if you're filming indoors, maybe this will be a good time to film indoors. Then in the evening from 4, 5, 6 until the golden hour, you can, you know, film outside again. And the golden hour, it's always a beautiful addition to any film. There's just something about the golden hour and pictures. So if you're going to be mastering daylighting, it's important to also understand how the golden hour works, when it comes out and when it disappears, and it doesn't stay for long. So you have to target it, you have to plan around it. Everybody, you know, you have to be ready with your camera, your phone. If you have an actor or what, you know, other things, you have to get them ready. So you understand that thankfully with apps these days, you can actually use your Google. Your Google can tell you when the sun is setting in a particular location where you are, and then you can plan around that. Another trick about lighting is also sometimes you might be filming indoors or even outdoors, maybe in the night, and you notice that there's not enough light in the picture. You can also use a second phone to light the scene. You know, your friend's phone, or you have a second phone, or someone, you know, you can just borrow their phone quickly and use it to set up your second light to your satisfaction, or at least to the best that you can get in that moment. And then you can film that, right? Apps, again, there are apps that you can use to make, to record. Sorry, I need to let some people in. Listening tips. Okay. All right. So there are apps that you can use. Personally, I've tried a couple of the apps like Filmmaking, I really I didn't see any major difference, you know, but you can try them. You can try Filmic Pro. It's probably the most effective one, you know, so try it, and then you can also research on other ones and see if you like it. They have some capabilities in the app that will make it look like you are shooting with a proper professional camera, you know, so you can try that. So the next thing, after you got your tripod and your stuff and your light and sound, you got your stuff sorted. The first thing you need to do is to prepare the content. It's your pre-production essentials. Story development. Now, story development covers a lot of things, whether it's a brand story that you want to tell, whether it's a narrative tale, whether it's a documentary, even some blogs and things like that. Basically, you need to develop whatever it is that you want to film. Spend time to actually write. Let's just say it's not a film that you're making, but whatever it is that you want to make. Don't just say, oh, I'll just bring up my camera and start shooting. Well, there's a place for that, but mostly I would advise you, if you're trying to create art, which is what I believe that you're trying to do, spend time to write it. There's something that happens when you spend time to think about something. When you shut out everything and just focus on this one idea. That's where the magic happens, actually. That's where you start digging deep and you start uncovering things. So that by the time you finish developing it, you've written it and you've structured it, the filming will be very easy. It will just flow, basically, you know. So story development is very, very important. Now, let me focus a little bit on people who want to make a film. How story development works for me. And generally, how there are different processes to story development. Usually, when you start to write down your ideas, the first idea that comes to you is usually not the best for that particular idea that you're developing. The first other ideas that come are usually not like it's the best until you sit down with the ideas and start to actually develop them, start to critique them, start to put them on the screen of your mind and watch it, and then tell yourself if this makes sense or not. Because if it doesn't make sense to you, chances are that it will not make sense to a lot of people. Because you're most times you're supposed to be your first audience. This is just something about creating art. And since this thing you want to do with your smartphone,
See me or okay. Hello?
I think it's him, ma. I think it's from his side.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I don't know what happened. I just got logged out and I'm back.
Okay, I think he's back on.
Sorry? Ujak, are you still here? Am I still able to
Yes,
share my
I'm
screen?
here.
Am I still a host?
Let me make you a host again. I don't know what happened, just bounced.
It was where,
So
yeah,
can you share your screen now?
I
I
think
it's
so.
network.
Yeah, I think I'm a host now. I can admit people now.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. So you can share your screen as well.
Yeah, let me find that thing again.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that to share. Okay. So I can share now, Abi. You can see me now. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay, see my screen and see me. Okay.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
I was talking about story development. And I was talking about how you go from ideation to actually bringing it to a story where you now eventually have a screenplay. So that when you go to film, you know exactly what you're doing. Some people will say, I have an idea, I know what I want to shoot. And then they go on set and they realize that they had no idea. Like it's just too chaotic when you're on set not to have a script. That's why I think the idea of making sure that you have a script is very important. Also, other tips from when you're developing a story is, first of all, let it be a story that resonates with you. Let it be a subject, something that makes you feel something. Don't just say, oh, because everybody's now making content about XYZ, then I have to make content about XYZ. It doesn't always work out well that way. You might be lucky and the content XYZ is making is also resonating with you. Why not? Go ahead. But if you're just doing it because, they say that's what's trending, and you want to jump on the trend, as they call it, well, maybe there's a place for that. But if you really want to be taken seriously as a storyteller, you have to learn how to be avant-garde, like be in the lead, be the one that creates trends, actually. Those trends are created by people. And I know that those people that create trends, it just doesn't just happen by them just always following other people's trends. I think that people are intentional about creating trends, and then they eventually create trends. And so story development is about being intentional about exactly what you want to see on the screen. That's why by the time you finish with the script, it is called a screenplay. If it's a narrative that you're telling, if the story you're telling is a film, is a narrative, a fiction narrative, it's called a screenplay because when we read what you have written down on that script, we're supposed to just see the film in our mind's eyes. Pictures, sound, everything. This is what you also need to do. So the point that we're talking smartphone filmmaking does not mean that you would compromise on story development. In fact, if there's anybody who should pay more attention to story development, it is that person who is making a film with a smartphone. Because if you have the luxury of working with big cameras and big budget and big studio support, there's so many things that can confuse people and make the bad story not so bad, because there will be a lot of razzmatazz to confuse people. But for you, that you're making a film with a smartphone, it's about being minimal in your approach, but being very, very effective with your messaging and with the effect that you have on people. Because at the end of the day, the truth is, so long as your picture is clear, people can see what's going on in the scene, and the audio is clear, people can hear clearly what's going on. It's no longer about technicalities. It's now about the content. That is what is going to capture people. And the beautiful thing with smartphones is that all the pictures look amazing, even if you don't know how to do post-production, color grading, and all of that. The pictures are already, the cameras are designed in a way that once they're outputting their pictures, they're already good for sharing. Except you're just looking for any specific kind of filter. Otherwise, most of the pictures come out ready to be shared. So story development, it's a very, very key, important thing to do. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether it is a film you're making, or it's a blog, or it's a brand story you're telling. Just spend time with that idea, whatever it is you want to do. Spend time. There's nothing you can't write a script for. There is nothing you cannot write a script for. Even if, like the guy who was videoing, who was telling a story of masquerades in his village, you will sit down and write the script. When you write it well, when you go with your phone, you know exactly what you're shooting. And when you finish shooting, you can start editing on your phone because you already know what you want. The script already tells you what comes afterward. So it's very, very important that you develop your story. Develop your idea, write it down. Write it down, even if it's just an interview that you're going to film. Write it down. Write the questions that you will ask down. Read through the questions, anticipate maybe follow-up questions, indicate them in your script so that you are on track. Script the entire production, mostly if it's a day production. Script the entire day. It's a totally different document. That one is for you and probably the people that you're working with, if you're working with people. But script it. Say when call time is, what happened from what time to what time, from what time to what time. Script it and have that schedule and try and follow the schedule. Because when you get on set, trust me, I don't know how it happens. No matter how small what you want to shoot is, everything is a production. And the fact that you're using a smartphone doesn't change that. Everything is a production. You would think, oh, it's just a small thing. Let's just shoot a small thing. And before you know it, issues, things will start coming up. You start dealing with issues. By the time you're finally ready to shoot, you cannot even remember the thing that you actually wanted to shoot. So that's why you have to go back to your script and your script will help you bring you back to what you want to shoot. So story development, planning. Let's go to planning. We've talked a bit about planning, but let's still talk a little bit about it. The power of planning, the importance of planning. What planning includes checking the weather. I know that in Africa, most times we don't care. We don't just care about the weather. We don't check the weather. But if you're a storyteller, if you're a filmmaker, you must always check the weather before you put your shoot. Google the weather in the area that you want to shoot. A lot of times it might not be accurate, but a lot of times if it tells you that it's going to rain, it will rain within that few hours around that time. And if it tells you that it's going to be cloudy, it's most likely going to be cloudy. And you know that if you're shooting on a cloudy day, your pictures are going to be cloudy. So it's important that when you're planning, that you do what I call smart planning. Use all these apps that are now available. Use them to plan. Like I said, the weather thing, you can tell the light, how the light will be, the intensity of the light for the day that you want to shoot. You can, by the hour, you can tell. Even if you want to shoot in the night, sometimes you want to shoot in the night. You would love to have the moon as part of your set, or even the light of the moon. But you don't know the cycle of the moon for that period you want to shoot. Planning will allow you to check the cycle of the moon. When is it going to be full moon? When is it going to be half moon? When is it going to be zero moon? And sometimes when it's full moon, the moon doesn't come out till maybe like later in the night. So you need to just have all these details. When you know these things and you plan your shoot well, when you finish filming, people will be wondering, like, what's your budget? How were you able to achieve all these things? Imagine as you're doing your story development, you have said to yourself, in this film, as part of my aesthetics and the look and feel, the tone and the picture tone, I would like to have like the sunset or the sunrise, that golden hour in the story, in the beginning of the story. And then maybe at the end of the story, I would like to have the moon. Maybe the last scene will be a moonlit scene. That alone, it's actually quite poetic already. Like, I don't even know the story that you want to tell, but you telling me that you're opening the film with the sunrise and closing it with the moonlight, with the moonlight scene. It's already quite poetic. And then somebody can be like, okay, tell me, I want to know. Now I want to know the story. You see how you've been able to, and that's, of course, the same way you would attract your audiences. And then when you send your film to film festivals, these are the things that judges look at, you know, because what it's important, it's that the art, it's important that the art is functional. Can you mute your mic, please? Mic is hot. Somebody's mic is hot. I see Harachi has her hand up. Harachi, do you want to talk, or is this an old thing?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't say I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good time to say that, please, at any point you have a question or anything, please raise your hand and you can unmute and speak. All right. So basically, planning. In production, planning is everything. And like I said, do not underestimate the fact that it is a production just because you're shooting it with your smartphone. It is still a production, even though you're shooting it with your smartphone. So always understand that planning is everything. If you're working with people, plan for how they are going to get to the place where you're filming. Plan what they're going to eat if they're spending the whole day with you. You don't want to be in the middle of the shoot and realize that people are hungry and you don't have any plan for what people will eat. And then you now have to abandon the shoot and start looking for what people will eat. In production, every time it's important. So when you're planning, plan like someone who is actually planning for a project. Don't just say, oh, because, it's a smartphone filmmaking, so I'll just, we'll just wing it. Doesn't really work like that. I've talked about lighting. I think I've really talked a great deal about lighting, but just for recap, it's important that you understand daylight and how lighting works. Now, understanding daylight, if you're filming in the afternoon and you're outside, when you stand, no matter wherever you stand, there will be two things that you'll be doing with the sun. Is that you're facing the sun or you are backing the sun most times. You might just be like, the sun might be on your side, by the side, but usually you're either facing the sun or you're backing the sun. Now, what to understand is never shoot your object, your character or object backing the sun, except you are doing it for style, because that's actually how you shoot silhouette. You shoot silhouette by your subject blocking the source of light so that the back is now silhouette. If that's what you want to go for, then that's beautiful. But otherwise, look up and check the position of the sun. When you see the position of the sun, then you position your character or characters or objects to face the sun so that the sun will be falling on their face directly. Now, another way to check the best light when you're filming during the day, I'll show you. If you're doing selfie, for instance, so this is phone. If you're doing selfie, you put the camera and then you start turning. You start turning. As you're turning, you're looking at the picture until you find the right temperature and the right light that you want. And then you can stop and then make your video there. Now, even if you're not doing selfie, you can still use this technique because you can stand where the character is and you can use your selfie camera to gauge where the light is falling on the character the best. And then once you find it, you can position your character. That is one very simple technique that you can use when it comes to lighting. Another thing, okay, I've said you can borrow somebody's phone, you can use your second phone as a light. And then when you're working inside, you use daylight, of course, with windows and doors. You can use them to control how much light that come in and how much that, shadows and things like that. Because one thing to understand about lighting is that lighting is not just about illumination. It's not just about flooding light on your subject. Actually, it should actually be called the art of lighting. It's about it's more about light design. It's about using light to design your scene. So sometimes you would see it's a bedroom scene, and then there's daylight flooding in, and then you see patterns on the wall, patterns that are cast from the window on the wall. It's called a gobble, and it's just so beautiful. It creates this beautiful art with the picture. Ojemba,
Yeah.
your mic is on. Could you mute, or you want to say something?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
We have 45 minutes left. Exactly.
We have 45 minutes left. Okay, we're
Yes,
making.
please.
Okay, thank you. Um, okay. So when you next thing is shooting with your smartphone. So you've done your story development, you've prepared, you've worked out how your lighting is going to work, you've planned everything, and now you want to start shooting. You say, but what format do I shoot? How do I shoot? Now, most phones have their camera settings. So the first thing you need to do is go to the camera setting, try and shoot with the highest resolution that particular phone can offer. So if it is 4K, if it is, 1080, you choose the format that you want, the resolution that you want. Now, frame rate. There are several frame rates that you could shoot with, but most phones offer you 30 frames per second, 25 frames per second. Some offer 24 frames per second. But the cinematic frame rate to shoot is 25 frames per second. Some people like to shoot 24 frames per second. So it depends. You can experiment with it and see, but chances are that you might not actually notice the difference, especially if you're not projecting it in the cinema, if you're just, sharing it on YouTube and stuff. But I make it a point of duty to always shoot 25 frames. Then composition. Photography, because that's what you're doing. Whether you're shooting still photos or you're shooting video, it's basically photography. I hope you know that video is basically just still pictures that are flickering at the rate of 24 frames, meaning 24 pictures per second. That's actually what film is. That's why when you go to study film, they make you study photography. You must have your own photographic or photo camera back in the day in film schools, because it's basically the same thing. So basically, the first thing you need to understand about composition is as much of what is outside the frame as what is inside. So basically, composition is you making a decision about what to capture, So you point your camera. Some people just point the camera and capture whatever the camera sees. That's not storytelling. Because remember that every picture tells a story. Every picture you show is telling a story. So when you're making your compositions, you have to be intentional about everything that gets into that frame. Because if you catch the wrong thing in the frame, you can actually completely derail the attention of your audience. Like, before you can actually get them back, to that story, it will be very hard. Just for one mistake of composition. I've seen a lot of pictures, I've seen a lot of films, and a lot of times, one of the key things that actually also shows the difference between amateurs and professionally done stuff is the composition. Because sometimes there are just certain things in a composition that you're wondering, what is this doing in this frame? What is this doing in this composition? So it's very, very important to pay attention to your composition, how you're compositing your frames. Now, when it comes to compositions, you can decide whether, first of all, it's going to be in a landscape like this, or portrait. Now, this is very, very important to discuss. The reason why you have to decide whether you want it on a portrait or on a landscape is because different platforms work better with different compositions, different picture composition, picture orientation. For instance, if you're sharing your stuff on Instagram, let's say this thing you want to film is primarily for Instagram, I would not advise to shoot landscape. When you post landscape on Instagram, it's just that, the way it is, and then there's all this space and everything is too small, it's too tiny. For anybody to actually experience that video the way you made it, they would have to turn their phone. And I don't think a lot of people like to turn their phones. I think people just want to have their phone like this and consume whatever they want and then continue to scroll. So if you really, really want to create content that gets a lot of engagement on Instagram, on TikTok, and all those places where people just have to keep scrolling, it's better when you output your content in a portrait mode. Now, there's a trick to it. I noticed that when you're filming on a portrait mode, right? It's not the same thing with when you film on a landscape mode and then in post, you reformat it to a portrait mode. And I will explain. So, when you film like this, you have this and you have that. When you want to reformat it, you have to literally put it in an editing software, and then, so it would scale, the length will now be longer. So you have to scale this thing up. And when you're scaling it up, you will lose all the pictures that are by the sides. So why I'm bringing this now is like, even when you're shooting like this, but you know that you're going to be outputting on Instagram, you have to make sure that you centralize your character. You centralize whatever you're filming. Because when you go to optimize it for TikTok or for Instagram, whatever you've shot like this, when you go to optimize it, you're going to lose a lot of the things that are in the frame by the side of the frame. So most times what you are left with are with the only things in the middle of your frame. So if you know this ahead of time, which is also why scripting and planning is very important, you will know to keep the most important information that you're filming in the center of your screen, so that when you want to optimize for portrait formats, you're not going to lose the key information that you're trying to film. So this is very, very important for composition. When you're doing compositions, just look for elements in the environment that helps you to enhance your story. The kind of backgrounds that you frame, everything helps to tell your story. So it's very, very important that you pay attention to your composition. Sometimes people will take pictures and somebody else will come to that same place and take picture with the same person. And then that other person's picture is just phenomenal. And every other person's picture is just flat. What is making the difference is composition. Somebody is paying attention to their composition and another person is just pointing and shooting. Stabilization. I talked about stabilization when I was talking about tripods. Talked about how important stabilization is. Except you're just joining. What I said, the key thing that I said about stabilization is that the stability of your picture differentiates it from amateurish work to something professional. It is very important that you stabilize your shot as much as possible. Even if you don't have a tripod, even if you're doing handheld. The trick to doing handheld stabilization is hold your phone properly. See the way I'm holding the phone. Hold your phone properly, right? Not too close to your body, just somewhere, there where it is balanced and you can pan, you can even tilt and go that. But anytime you're moving, please move slowly. Nobody enjoys shaky picture. Except you're shooting like a fight, and then we know that there's something. The camera is like subjective, it's really in the scene. That one we know, we enjoy that one. But other than that, your shots always need to be stable. Always need to be stable. Even when you're moving, move in a way that you can maintain a lot of stability, even when you're doing handheld. Again, you can see the way I'm holding the phone. Some people like to hold their phone like this. It's wrong. If you hold the phone like this, you're likely sometimes even getting into the lens, blocking the light and all that. It's a bit tacky. Some people like to hold their phone with one hand, or hold the phone with one hand. It's not the best because you can't, any small thing, the phone is going to shake. But if you balance your phone, hold it, it's balanced. See, everything is see this one is keying, this one here, this one is holding it, this one is also, the four corners are well balanced. That even if I'm falling, this phone is not going to fall from my hand. I will still get all the shots I want to get. So it's very, very important for composition and for stabilization. Okay. Now, let's talk about cinematic techniques for smartphones. There's something called depth when you're filming a scene. An example of depth of field, it's the way you're seeing me now. My background is blurred and you're focusing very much on me. I'm sure you've seen videos like that and you probably think, oh, I'm sure this can only be done with professional cameras. You can actually still create depth of field with your smartphones. And I can tell you how. The trick is very simple. What you need to do is set up the person, the character, whatever you're shooting. Get them to stabilize. Be ready. That's the final position. No shaking or moving, right? Of course, if they are talking, if it's an interview, of course they can talk, but no serious super movement. So what you do is You take the camera, you move very close to them, very close to what you want to shoot on a very close shot. You click, you just tap the screen so that the focus will stay on that particular face. And then you start pulling out. You start pulling out. You start pulling out. The farther you go, the more the object will stay on focus, but the background will blur. That's the trick.
See,
That's
can
the-
you say that again?
My brother-in-law to do
Okay. So I was talking about the trick to achieving depth of field when you're filming with a smartphone. And I was explaining what depth of field is for some people that may not know. Depth of field is usually shallow depth of field. So depth of field is basically the depth of the field in your focus. It's a long photography term. But the point is there's something called shallow depth of field, it's when the background is blurred and the object is in sharp focus. So I was saying, like, the way I believe my Skype is showing, my background is blurred and the focus is staying on me. Now, for a long time, and most people don't know that you can actually achieve that shallow depth of field with your smartphone. Now, to achieve it with professional cameras, you actually take certain kinds of lenses. It's not even any kind of lens or camera that can achieve it. And you have to understand the way to light and how to place your character or your subject. But with smartphones, there's a trick on how to achieve that. And that trick is set up what you want to film or who you want to film. Put up the lights, everything is set the way you want to film it, and you're ready to start rolling. Take the camera very close to the object. Tap the middle of the camera, the middle of your screen. Basically, what that is telling the camera is that this is the center of the focus. Then you can press record, and then you can start pulling back to the actual frame you wanted to frame. So the more you're pulling back, the more the background will be getting blurry, but the subject or the object will continue to be in sharp focus. Do you understand? Okay, Kate has a question. Kate, you can unmute yourself. You raised your hand.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Kate.
Okay, basically, I didn't get it when you were talking about the frame rates. I wanted to ask, you said the cinematic frame rate to shoot is what? I didn't get the
25 frames per second. You will see it when you go to the camera settings.
Okay.
Your phone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
When you go to camera settings of your phone, you see the depth, the frame rate, and then you will see the quality. So I said you should always choose the highest quality possible. Now, different cameras have different settings, so you just have to, but it's usually quite intuitive. It's not something difficult to find.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, I think some people are waiting to be let in.
Okay. Let me do that. Okay. All right. Okay. So that was for depth. Then understanding dimensions. When you're filming, it's usually best to have, like, not just like the flat dimension, right? Just like flat. Understand how to place your camera in a way that gets a more dynamic dimension of your scene. So it's when you angle your camera. Avoid just placing camera like face to face of whatever you're filming. You know, it's just that's an amateur thing to do, so to speak. That's a thing that an ordinary person would do. You just carry camera. They say take a picture. You just carry camera straight back. You understand? And they say, you know, Sabi take pictures. You don't know how to take pictures. If it was so and so person, this picture would be different. What do you think they are talking about? It's the same camera. It's the same person. It's just the understanding of some of these things that we're talking about, especially dimension. There are sometimes that somebody, so in storytelling, dimensions also help you. How you choose to show dimensions is also part of the storytelling. You know, it's also what we call camera angles in a way, not really angles because camera shots and angles, but this is understanding the place of dimension, not because there's the flat dimension and there's the 3D dimension, the 3-dimension, and your scene is usually 3-dimensional. So you don't just want to show only 2-dimension. A lot of times, by the way you place your camera, you can show better dimension for your shots. Then movement. Movements are part of storytelling. Camera movement, shot movement, the way your shot moves. When you're telling a story, because it's called a motion picture, try not to just have like flat-footed shots all the time. Like you're filming, say, people in the living room and somebody walks in from the kitchen and has a conversation and they go to the dining table and you just want to stay one place and frame what we call a master shot, which means a shot that has everything that is happening in that scene. And then you say, okay, we've got the master shot. Let's go to close-ups. And then you shoot close-ups and then you just cut, add some dynamism in the way that you shoot. For instance, somebody is coming from the kitchen to meet people in the living room. You could actually decide that the camera will become the eye of that person. So you being the camera person, you play that person working and you walk with the camera. So the camera becomes the person, it's called POV. It's a point of view shot. So those kinds of shots, they add some dynamism in your storytelling. Or when somebody is standing up, you can actually make the camera stand up. Or somebody is falling. Instead of just staying one place and filming the person falling, you can actually decide that the camera will fall with the person. And those type of shots are just amazing shots that actually gets people attention to what you're doing and actually helps you to tell your story more. So movements are very, very important when you're filming. A lot of people, when they hear movement, they think, oh, I must have a slider, or, a crane or anything like that. Of course, if you can have any of those things, that would be lovely. But in a situation where you don't have a slider, you have to figure out how to create a sliding shot. There's so many ways to create a sliding shot. Sometimes you have a table and you put a cloth on the table and then set your phone in a way and draw the clothes. Slides across the table. It's stable and all that. It's not shaky and everything. You know you've achieved your shot. I think what I'm trying to say about movement and when you're shooting with a smartphone is just be smart. Just think out of the box. I've seen people who tie a rope, their phone on a rope and draw, you know how the staircase, the winding staircase, and somebody is running, they drop the phone to follow the person as he's running down the stairs. And it resulted in a very beautiful shot. And after this class, the first thing you need to do is you need to go to TikTok and start searching for smartphone filmmaking, start following people. There are people who are creating crazy stuff with smartphones. There's so much you can learn in terms of, a lot of these things that we're talking about. So much. Then after you've filmed, the next thing would be editing. They are just basic editing softwares, apps that you can use to edit on your phone. There's so many things that you can do with apps, editing on your phone. At this point, I want to ask, is there anybody here who has started editing with their phones? Can you raise your hand and tell us what app you're using and how your experience has been? Geraldine, okay, I'm gonna mute your mic and talk.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Geraldine. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so I'm an actor, writer, model, voiceover artist. So sometimes I get to, not sometimes, many times than none, I get to film myself or, produce myself basically. So I use CapCut. I used to use InShot, but CapCut is better for me, even though they now have this pro feature. But I have found my way around it. CapCut is amazing, actually.
Geraldine, answer me, why don't we Nigerians like to pay for apps? Even if don't even know how much. Once they say pay, everybody takes off.
Because literally paying for everything, this T-Pain era.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I used to use InShot as well, but these days I find myself using CapCut a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you. So what kind of content do you make? Is this like normal selfie videos, or do you actually do like storylines and things?
Selfie videos like TED Talks, mini podcasts. I also film videos for my poems.
Oh, you write poems. You perform poems.
Yes, I do.
Please, could you be kind enough to share your handle or some of your stuff in the chat so that
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
And where are you based? Sorry, Geraldine. Where are you based?
Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay. All right, cool.
Thank you.
All right. I see Abdulaziz. Straight up. Abdulaziz, you can unmute and speak. If Abdulaziz is not here, can we have crosswords?
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the wonderful class. It's been awesome listening to everything you've been saying.
Thank you actually for saying that. I like your picture, by the way. Is that you on a canoe?
Yeah, that is me. It's from
Wow.
it's from an album art because I make music beyond film. I make music. I also make music for film and I sound design beyond just normal filmmaking. So yeah, that's from an album art. Anyways, to answer your question, just like you said, I use CapCut a lot. CapCut is like my favorite app because it makes it very, very easy to cut your video, sync your videos, to also subtitle your videos. Those are like really, really good things that are like the AI subtitle tool that has been brought into CapCut really helps. So yeah, CapCut is beautiful for editing, especially when you're shooting like films or short films on phone, not just selfie videos, like you said, but actually shooting films. They're really good. And then also I use Filmora. Filmora also really helps me in shooting. And then also to just add, this one is not a shooting app, but it also really helps. That's for those who script, because when you do mobile phone photography, I feel like you also need to script when you do that. So Celtex for phone, that's CELTX, also really, really helps with scripting, and most of their features are free. So yeah, those are some apps I use.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Crosswords. One last question. Was this shot with a like a smartphone or with a big camera? The thing on your
Okay, that picture.
Mm,
No, it was by a camera. It was by a camera.
like a proper camera.
Yeah, but that was actually complete natural lighting. There was no
Yes,
extra
that's what I
lighting.
wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the
Yeah,
natural light and position. See the way the rim light
yeah.
is so creating that dimension that I was talking about, and it's really making it so beautiful. Thank you very much, Crosswords, for dropping by and sharing with us. Yeah, I use
Thank you.
Filmora too. I think, yeah, you're welcome. I started with Filmora, and then I tried just the other one. But I finally found myself like everybody gravitating towards CapCut. I think the CapCut is just so user-friendly and so intuitive. And now they've even added captions. So when you can finish your editing and do your captioning immediately, there you can do so you can reduce noise from your sound. You can what else that are important? Of course, I said about captions. You can also do your color grading, in CapCut. And a word of encouragement. Sometimes it's okay to pay for an app, at least. Sometimes, especially if you're using the app to create content that you're taking very serious. Like CapCut, I think that when you do the paid version, there's so many features that you get that you don't get with free versions. And to be honest, just having the mindset to review apps and see the ones that are worth you paying for, because a lot of times they're actually not quite expensive if you really think about it, and also it's just by subscription. So maybe in a month where you're going to be using that particular app more, you just subscribe for that month, and then when that month is done, when you're no longer using it that much, you can just revert back to the demo version, because you want to be able to have access to all the possible features, because you don't want your content to be content that was made 2 years ago, when there are new features that you could have used to make your work a lot easier. So that's very important. Like I've talked about color grading. A lot of these apps come with free filters. We call them filters now, right? They're called color grading, but mostly now it's just filters that you can apply. And there's so many ways that you can actually apply these filters in a very creative way. And what I always say is, when you find an app that you like, go on YouTube and study that app, learn it, like watch videos, binge videos on that app. There's no app that is out there that there are not tons of videos of people who have used them, who have, mastered them and show you tricks. Because at the end of the day, it's just it's not just the apps, but the amazing cool things that you can do with the apps. So we talked about audio. Again, CapCut has a feature for you to actually enhance your audio. But in case if your audio is not it's very bad and you're not able to get CapCut to help you that much, you could actually export that picture. You could extract the audio and then find one of those AI apps online that are free that can help you clean up your audio and use them. And then if most times if your video is longer and the audio is long, sometimes the free ones would not support more than a certain length of the audio. So you may have to pay, but at least it's good for you to know that there's a solution for your bad audio, because the last thing you want to do is put up a bad audio, put up content with a bad audio. You don't want to do that at all. So after you've got everything ready, you want to start distributing your stuff. Again, the beautiful thing about what's going on right now is literally no gatekeepers. You can just conceive your idea, create your script, plan your stuff, get your phone, charge your phone, make sure your battery is full. If you can, invest in a power bank, and then make sure that your space is always empty. I would advise you, if you intend to be creating content with your phone, make sure that your phone storage your gallery is always empty. So what you do is, after every shoot, make sure you dump everything into your laptop or your hard drive so you can clean up. You can clean up your system, because something that would be very terrible most times is when you're in the middle of the shoot and your system, your storage runs out and there's nothing you can delete. And even if you have something to delete, you have to take time. And then if you're telling a documentary story, you've missed the moment that could have added so much to your story. So two things are very important. Make sure your storage is always empty, and make sure your battery is always fully charged. Invest in a power bank. It is very, very important. Invest, in fact, if you can, invest in more than one power bank. Have two power banks, so that maybe when you're filming, your battery runs out, you start using the first one and then you're charging the other one when you're not using the other one. So that way you know that you are always on point. Also, if you have a laptop, go to your shoot with your laptop so that you can always dump your rushes as soon as you're shooting them. Also, that will help you to have more space to work with. It's also good for security. What is very important to know is that everything you're doing, make sure you're backing up. Make sure you are backing up. If you're not backing up, you might wake up one day and the place where you saved it is gone. You should be able to go back to the backup and put it up again, pull your rushes up again. Sometimes even after you have edited and outputted the content, it's important to keep your rushes as safe as possible, because something might happen another time and you might need to retell that story in a different way, and you might need to consult some of the things that you've shot in the past. Of course, important places to distribute your content is YouTube. Everybody knows about YouTube, but not everybody's putting content in YouTube. A lot of people are putting content in YouTube, but not everybody's content is getting seen on YouTube. So don't just think that, oh, if I can just make a content and put it on YouTube, that is just one step forward. You need to learn how to make YouTube work for you. And all of those resources are on YouTube. YouTube for Dummies, YouTube for Beginners, how to make my channel trend, all kinds of whatever, however kind of question you have, it's there. Just spend time, take these things one by one, study them, because in this era, you're not just a content creator, you're also a social media manager. I hope you know that. Except you're so rich to be able to hire a social media manager. But again, even if you hire a social media manager, if you don't know what's going on, you don't even know when the person is just wasting your time and money. So I'll advise you, some of these things are things that you just map out time and say, okay, instead of waking up, maybe you wake up 7 o'clock every morning, or you wake up 6 in the morning. Maybe you can wake up 1 hour earlier just to focus on smartphone filmmaking and everything that has to do with it, to learn all the things that you need to learn how to be.
Yes.
to learn how to.
Back.
You're back. Welcome back. You know, well, this is the last notepad. You know, so to learn all of these things, learn how to use Instagram. A lot of people are on Instagram, but they don't know how Instagram works. They don't know how it works. They don't know the algorithm, the way the algorithm works, the things that it favors. Sometimes you see a lot of people posting more reels. You know, what is the difference between posting a reel and posting a normal post or posting a story? You know, how all of those things, how do they work? There are people who have gone under the hood and studied this thing, and they put it in a video tutorial, 5-10 minutes. You're getting all of those things. So it's important to do that. And it's the same thing with TikTok. TikTok has actually done this, something they do where they actually release guidelines and things that, you know, that favor people on the app. So people who have read that, if you can read it, go and read it. If you can't read it, look for people who have read it to summarize it, and there are plenty on YouTube, and they can do that, right? So I guess the next thing, since Ujaku is here to remind us that we are almost done, case studies, go and search. They just say films made with smartphones. You will run when you see the amount of content on YouTube. Films made with smartphones.
Okay.
Do that on your own. Q&A, Ujaku. Do we have time for
we are running out of time. We have other activities scheduled for today. So we are absolutely out of time. It's 1:30. So,
Yeah,
but we
okay.
have this WhatsApp group that is there for anybody that still want to engage further with you, can just jump in. I think I'm going to put the link again. Please, guys, we are out of time. And it's been a wonderful session, even for, I'm sure for everyone here, we learned a lot. I personally, I wish we can go on and on, but unfortunately it's 2 hours, right? So I think it's about time we'll call it a day. Tomorrow we are having Malika Feboa take us on storytelling with AI. And as usual, tomorrow's class, masterclass, starts at 10 a.m. But the Zoom will be open at 9:45, right? And I'll expect everyone here to jump in, because like what I said earlier, because it's a class that will wrap up everything Dr. Izine and Ike has said. So I think it's very important that we all partake of tomorrow's class. Then after the class, then you can now go ahead and create your 1-minute video, which we are going to, select the people that will move on to the next level. And so with that, I want us to please clap for Ike Naigwe. That's a powerful and exceptional and excellent masterclass. Please clap, just unmute, clap for him.
Thank you.
Clap.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we wrap up today, I will say thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow. If you have questions, just jump in on the WhatsApp group. We are very open to partnering, working with you. And like I said earlier, we are creating this platform for Black Origin Storytellers. So it's actually called Black Origin Storytellers Initiative. So if you also want to be on that platform, just jump in. We'll be sharing links there. And this is just all for you, all for us. And we're doing it for our motherland, Africa. So we'll call it a day and see you tomorrow. And from us here at ENIFF pre-festival session, it's good afternoon from Nigeria, and goodbye. And good evening if you're in Kenya, and good morning if you're in the United States. And see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Ike, I think you need to end the class. You have the
Okay.
host. You are the
Oh,
host.
okay.
I think you need to end. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Where is that?